Welcome to Light and Shadow. I'm Indigo, and I've created this space so that we can talk about all of the unseen layers that go into creating and shaping us into who we are. And this week, I'd like to talk about triggers. What is a trigger? Why do they happen? How do they occur? And everything in between. So what is a trigger? A trigger is anything external or internal that sets off an emotional or physical reaction, which means it could be an interaction, a memory, a thought that sends us into an automatic response to danger, even if our present moment isn't dangerous at all. Which is the tricky thing about triggers as well, because our perception is actually what shapes those triggers. Last week we talked a little bit about this as well, so if you want to go check out that video to get the beginning scoop of this, then I definitely suggest doing so. And again, our perception shapes our reality. So the way that we view ourselves and the way that we view our world around us is going to be the filter that we process all of our interactions, thoughts, and memories through. And that's why these perceptions and filters matter. Because again, as we said in last week, it doesn't necessarily have to be judgment on us or rejection to us. And someone doesn't necessarily have to say something the way that we took it, but it feels like they said it that way because that's the way that we took it and the filter and perception that we're seeing everything through. So that's, again, a tricky thing about triggers because they don't necessarily have to be rooted in reality. They could be a perceived trigger. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone judging us, but if we perceived that as judgment, then we take that as judgment. And they don't necessarily have to be rejecting us, but if we see it as rejection, it's going to feel like rejection to us, whether we're taking that emotionally or if we feel it physically. And that's how it ties back into a full-on trigger, whether we get involuntary emotional reaction or an involuntary physical reaction. It can be either way, and it can still be a trigger. So why do we get triggered? It's very weird sometimes to start looking at why we get triggered and acknowledging that we get triggered and everything that has to do with that. So it's very nice to know, why is this happening, right? We get triggered because our nervous system is picking up on a pattern, a behavior, a cycle that we've seen in the past. And when we have dealt with this in the past, it has led to complete overwhelm or shutdown, pain, or even danger. And so even if we consciously know that we are presently okay, this behavior, pattern, or cycle, again, has led to unsafe and dangerous situations in the past. So even if our mind and our present self knows that that's not what's going to happen, our nervous system responds to that as if it is going to happen because it can't differentiate the difference between the past and the present. Our nervous system is like a computer software that is always picking up information, even if we aren't consciously doing it in our brains. Our energy fields are constantly taking on information, and again, we have programmed these cycles, patterns, and behaviors into our subconscious. Therefore, we don't have to consciously recognize them. Our nervous system and our subconscious is picking up on them for us so that we don't have to put as much brain power into it and then making us automatically react to them in the way that's going to make us safe. And even if we know that we don't have to react that way to keep ourselves safe, our body and nervous system makes it that way until we actively change that. So just to recap really quick, what is a trigger? Why do they happen? And how do they happen? A trigger is our nervous system responding to a pattern, feeling, or behavior that sends us into an involuntary emotional or physical response to something that in the past has led to complete shutdown, overwhelm, pain, or even danger. And that's why our triggers are called triggers, because they're loaded. Not only are they locked, loaded, and ready to go, but they are loaded and charged with unprocessed trauma and chronic conditioning. And every time those cycles repeated themselves, it further confirmed and charged those triggers. So we will talk more about unprocessed trauma and chronic conditioning in next week's video. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns about this video, please leave them in the comment section below. I would love to chat with you guys, and I will see you guys in next week's video.